I think the bigger concern is if the actual phones sell through into Q3, because I think people are banking on Q3 smartphones being good once we get through this coronavirus concern. So that's why we're still more positive on the data center names like AMD, NVIDIA, and even ADI now has just reported solid numbers this morning. So I think you still want to be more exposed to data center if you want to de-risk yourself of the supply chain issues, but it's not really surprising that people are buying the dip on a quarter push out.
All right, so it's really data center that's driving your thesis, right?
Data centers are primary thesis for 2020. That's why we're long AMD, NVIDIA, ADI with their 48-volt product, and memory as well, which would be Western Digital and Micron.
Vijay, how about you?
Yeah, I kind of agree, but I think the entire supply chain, not just handsets, but automotive, PC, and data center would all be affected, industrial included. But what investors are positioning for is that you see demand getting pushed out more into the June quarter. And so where June quarter tends to be flattish, you could have a pretty much stronger guide than seasonal. So I think it's not just data centers, but you would see a much bigger pickup in handsets as well, with demand getting pushed out. Memory should be much stronger as demand gets pushed into June. And so I think all those names. So I do agree, Micron, WD, NXPI, ON Semi, all these automotive names, and even on the handset side, Qualcomm, Skyworks are all pushing well into the back half in front of a 5G cycle, and memory itself being pretty tight. And remember, even in autos, right? Autos, China January auto sales are down 20% year on year, and February we are going through almost a month of shutdown. So the comps will be even more disastrous. So, but that said, the entire thesis is that you see demand get pushed out, not destroyed. So it's more a deferred demand there.
Mitch, we were already seeing a pause in smartphone demand in China ahead of 5G phones and networks being available. Qualcomm's talked about that for the last couple quarters. Now with the COVID-19 coronavirus issues, I wonder if the build out of 5G in China is going to be significantly slowed this year. They had planned to spread it to all the major city areas, and if that's going to have any impact on semi-demand.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that's why we're more positive on actually the infrastructure build out. We're actually neutral on companies like Qualcomm. We're positive on companies like ADI that are exposed to the infrastructure build out. Because when you look at it, there's not really a lot you can do right now with 5G. If I gave you a 5G phone, I'm not really sure what you would see as a big difference besides maybe streaming games and some faster streaming video. So that's why you probably want to be more positioned heavily on the infrastructure side, because the infrastructure side is going to get built out regardless if the apps are ready on the smartphone device. And that's why we're more neutral on the smartphone side and much more positive on the infrastructure and data center side.
Vijay, just go back to this idea that demand gets pushed out maybe to the middle of the year. I mean, when you talk about the impact of something like coronavirus on restaurants or travel or some of these other sectors, one of the key questions is how much can be recouped. So I ask you that same question where semiconductors are concerned. You see these halts in production. If you see these delays, is it something that just gets pushed out and ultimately all does get recouped, or do you see some of that demand go away?
Yeah, thanks. So I think when you look at restaurants or travel, that's more immediate term, and that's for immediate consumption. But when you're talking about electronics, data center demand, server demand, enterprise demand, 5G picking up, this is more of a multi-year ramps. On the automotive side too, what you're seeing is more of a second half or even a multi-year ramp there, right? So I think the demand there is more sustainable. Enterprise will tend to come back. 5G rollouts will happen because the telco, that's the long-term telco strategy. So we think those will sustain much more than more immediate consumption trends like food or travel, etc., restaurants, etc.